wanted to hear how you became the wonderful Dwight that you are now.
So my mother would tell you that she saw it from the moment I was born. She always talks about just like she just looked at me and was like, "Yo, you're it. Like you're someone special." And look, she'll tell you that about the birth of my brother and the birth of my other, you know what I mean? But like, but there is that love that's there, that was present. Um, so I grew up in a household where my aunt, so I spent a few years living with my aunt, like when I was a baby. And my aunt was a reader and loved to read. And I think I picked up that joy of reading from just kind of like being in that environment where reading was just something that was like, like I was a kid that like, I'm eating cereal, but I'm looking like I'm reading the back of the cereal box, right? Like I just always had a book with me. And as I've gotten older, different people have kind of like guided me to different paths, and I've picked up on different things. And when I got to college, I really, by the time I was a senior or junior, I had signed up to write a thesis in my English concentration. And what I wanted to focus on was I wanted to focus on Black masculinity specifically. And part of the reason why I was interested in that is that I didn't grow up with my biological father. Now, I grew up with my stepfather and I grew up with a bunch of father-like figures around me. So I always feel blessed in that way. But I didn't have my biological father around. And I always worried on like, how am I learning how to be a man? And am I doing this thing correctly, right? So I wrote a thesis using a Chester Himes novel, who was a contemporary of like Richard Wright and others. But as much he's not as well known. And through that process, I started to like really just become interested in learning more about it. And as I learned more about masculinity, I also wanted to find out more about femininity and about feminism. But I really didn't explore that aspect of learning until I was a little bit older. And really, I'm a child of Bell Hooks. You know what I mean? Like I read Bell Hooks. She has a small packet, maybe 5 pages, 10 pages, something like that, called Understanding Patriarchy. I still go back to that packet time and time again because I find it to be very clear. She uses very easy to follow experiences from her childhood to explain it and talk about like the damage that is done not just to men because of patriarchy, right, but to everyone around them, right, and how like it really influences the environment. And from there, I just continued to read, right? And then I became much more interested, not much more, but I became interested in learning about race, right? And then I became interested in learning about gender. And then I became interested, you know what I mean? So like, it really has kind of like built out of all of that learning. But really, when I think about, like, if I had to draw a lineage, right? Like I would draw it to Chester Himes, to Bell Hooks, to others who have engaged in this idea of like what it means to be a Black male in America, right? And that story has been told in various ways by various people.